You are not in Kansas anymore. You are on Pandora, ladies and gentlemen. Respect that fact every second of every day. If there is a hell, you might want to go there for some R&R after a tour on Pandora. You've got to obey the rules. Pandora rules.
La, da, da.
Yummy, yummy,
Yum.
yum.
Welcome once again to Pandoras Box, everybody. We hope you've had a good week out there, whatever you've been doing. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning.
We're going to bring you...
Buenos dias.
Yeah, hello. Por favor. Welcome to Pandora's Box. Hope you've had a good week. Today we'll be bringing you the same sort of nonsense mixed in with facts and ponderings that we bring you every single week.
Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
More of the same. So let's just get right into it, fellas. Little fun fact for you. There are a lot of rivers in the UK named Avon because the Romans arrived and asked the native Celts what the rivers were called. The Celts would always answer Avon. But the Romans obviously they meant that was like the specific name for the river, and it would have been obviously different Romans around dotted around. So they called it the River Avon. But as Avon is just the Celtic word for river, it's just river. It's like that's what it is really.
Yeah.
Another really funny fact, which is along the similar lines. This one's freaking hilarious. When the Spanish conquistadores landed in what's now known as the Yucatan Peninsula. They asked the natives what their land was called, and they responded, Yucatan? In 2015, it was discovered that in those Mesoamerican languages, Yucatan just means, I don't understand what you are saying. So how funny is that?
That's hilarious.
Yucatan? The Spanish conquistadors are like, what is this land called? Yucatan? It's Yucatan. But actually it just means like, what the hell are you on about, basically? That is hilarious, isn't it?
That's so good.
That is a hilarious little fact. This is a cool little fact for you. Did you know that outside of pesky heart palpitations, coffee may actually be good for your heart? A study of more than 37,000 people found that those who drank 2 to 4 cups of coffee a day had a 20% lower risk of heart disease than those who did not. Though tea drinkers may have an even greater advantage, those who drank 3 to 6 cups of tea were 45% less likely to suffer coronary heart problems. So drink up your nice hot beverages.
I did think that when I visited the coffee farm in Costa Rica, and you realise just how close from the bean and the tree it grows, and then from the bean to the roast to the cup. It's a very simple process of just like this thing that's grown from it, like this nice fruit that's grown from a tree that turns into, and I'm like, turned into a bean and just like that can't be that bad for you, it's quite a natural thing, isn't it, rather than like something that's like super processed and stuff like that.
I guess if you wanted to be really pernickety, obviously there are lots of like toxic things in nature though that you can't have just because they are natural. Do you know what I mean? Like lots of poisonous plants and stuff. But I do get what you're saying in terms of like a problem of like a lot of store-bought foods today.
Over-processed.
And like pesticides. Like there's lots of problems, like processed foods obviously being probably the biggest thing, pesticides being another. I know that pesticides also, they like stay in some fruits longer than others. So I know that apparently things like apples are really bad for pesticides. So like you're there thinking, I'm being healthy because I'm eating an apple. Not only did Bernard tell us earlier on that red apples can be up to 25%, 25%, I think. 25%, I think. Sugar, but also they retain pesticides really bad. Whereas, and I think strawberries do as well. Whereas, apparently things like pineapple don't.
Oh, nice.
So even though they're treated the same, they like secrete it really quickly. So by the time you eat the pineapple, there'll be like there'll be no pesticides. So if you're worried about pesticides, ditch the apples, start eating pineapple.
I don't like the look of wax on apples as well. Do you know you can get like a layer of like this waxy stuff that's on it? It's like, that can't be good for you.
I don't know what fruit it was, but there was a video that went viral a while ago, and I think it may have been an apple, or it may have been like an orange or something like that, but it was from this farm that they were picking them off. And they were just covered in this like white, I assume it was just like chemicals to stop them, I guess make them bigger, make them juicy or whatever. But it looked awful. It was like they were just covered in like chalk. And you're just thinking, that's definitely, there's no way you can get that all off of the fruit. Yeah.
Funnily enough, I was talking to Emily, my missus' granddad, about this just yesterday. I'll just do a little shout out actually to Em's nan. Em's nan's been in the hospital, Wendy Saunders. And I'll tell you what, in the 7 years I've known Wendy, she has been as nice to me as like any human being I've ever met. Do you know what I mean? And that obviously like means something, doesn't it? You know? So, you know, like I went to like the hospital to see her and I bought her like some flowers and stuff, and just like, yeah, it was just you know, gave her like a hug and a kiss and that, and like some well wishes. She's home now, so it's all good. She had like some issues with her brain and stuff like that, but it seems like she's, you know, right after a brain scan. So everyone sent their well wishes to Wendy Saunders. Such a lovely lady.
Shout
but Stan, I was like, at the time I was popping to M&S because I said to like Stan, like, oh, you know, do you want me to get like Wendy any fruit or anything like that, or do you want any fruit? Like what sort of fruit does she like? And anyway, we got into the conversation, and he was saying like, you know, growing up as a farmer in Enmore, he's saying he never really got out of the habit of like only really eating like native fruits and eating fruit seasonally. And it's like, and it's almost like he's almost like a bit against it. You could tell he had almost like an ethical, like not an ethical thing maybe, it's probably a strong term, but you know, like a cultural maybe, you know, growing up in like post-war Britain, where obviously rationing was in effect, and there wasn't like mass you know, like massive imports of like just fruits from all around the world. Because nowadays we've almost like eradicated seasonal fruits, haven't we? Do you know what I mean? It's like you can just get like, you can get any fruit pretty much in the supermarket.
Yeah, you can get strawberries in the middle of winter.
More or less year round, can't you? Yeah. But he was like saying, so he like never eats bananas, for example. You know, he was like saying, you know, like growing up in Britain, like you know, back in those days, in like the 40s and 50s, like you just wouldn't have even seen a banana. He said like, you know, unless you went, you know, maybe in like the cities they might have done, but not like where he was living. You wouldn't go to like Bridgewater in the supermarket, they wouldn't have bananas. And so he always like stuck by like eating like, you know, like blackberries and black currants, and like that's the sort of fruit he eats. He's not really like a fan of eating like, anything that's sort of like, you know, if he doesn't know like specifically where it was grown or where it came from, or if it's not like seasonal, he almost thinks it's like weird. But I think that's quite cool. That's quite respectable in a way.
Yeah, it's nice. I been picking a load of like lavender and lemon balm and stuff from the garden. We've got loads of it growing down in Devon, and it's just so nice to just like cut it all up and make a load of like steep teas out of it. I've been doing that recently, and it's just crazy how nice it is, how much flavour and just how good it feels. But just knowing that that's just growing in your garden.
But like you didn't spray you didn't spray anything on it.
No, so there's nothing. It's totally natural, and it's like, oh, this is nicer than the bags of tea that I get that are all these different teas that they're all dried and stuff. So it's not dried out, it's just cut straight up and then steeped.
Well, we were talking about it. We were talking about it like last week, weren't we? And I've already got rosemary and a bit of mint growing in the garden, and loads of lemon balm myself. But I literally want to go on like this freaking crazy. I want to literally plant like a ridiculous amount of both rosemary and mint, because we use mint a lot in our cooking at home. Because we love like a lot of sort of like Greek and Turkish style food, so we use mint all the time, so it makes sense. And also we use a lot of rosemary. We cook like a lot of lamb and stuff, and as most people know, rosemary's just amazing with lamb. But apparently as well, you know. And the thing is, whether it's like, I'm sure some of it might literally just purely be old wives' tales, but I'm sure some of it is backed up by some sort of scientific evidence as well. But rosemary has got so many nice little benefits. Do you know what I mean? Apparently, like they used to consider it almost like the things that they used to like use it to treat, you know, like use it for to treat, like back in the day were like, you know, numerous. You know, they would treat it for like so many different ailments and things like that, and aches and pains. And I just think, you know, even if it's not, it's like a lovely smell and a lovely flavour. And it's like, I always think in your head, you think like, oh yeah, you use rosemary for like, you know, cooking, say like lamb. You wouldn't necessarily think of like making a tea with it, or like putting it in the bath to like scent your bath.
Oh man!
But if you think about it, I can like picture it, and like I think like, yeah, that would be lovely. Just put some hot water. It's
crazy how many nice
scents really
just come from those plants. Like it's a very strong but such a beautiful smell. So yeah, putting a bit of that in your bathtub. And just the fact that it just grows outside, like I can't get my head around that a lot of the time.
And it's such a strong scent as well. Like you can imagine, like putting that in your bath, it would just like very quickly make your whole bath smell. Because when you
normally it's like, oh, you got to get an essential oil, and it's like super expensive, a whole concentrated version of it. It's like, no, just pick some, and chuck them in your bath with you.
Yeah,
it's
and
like...
you probably look at the ingredients, and it'd probably have like 20 other ingredients as well.
And alcohol and stuff.
And that's like stuff like, do you I'm sure most of it's harmless, but even so, it's just
Do you
like
want to be bathing in it?
Yeah, it's like even if most of it is harmless, which I'm sure it is, I just rather just not have that many ingredients and that,
Do you guys mind if I do a little spray in the studio?
Yeah, go on.
Because when I was in Glastonbury, I found out that my for my date of birth, it's my tree is the holly tree.
Is it?
So I got like a holly essence, and it's like a bit like essential oily kind of like, but I think it's
Drew's going to give us a little spray.
Celtic tree essence magical spray from Glastonbury.
Oh, look at that. I love how ceremoniously you did that. So exuberant.
I just want, can you smell
so
it?
flamboyant.
Has it reached you yet?
Can you smell it, people?
Beautiful.
Can you smell it somehow through the
It smells like
speakers?
Christmas.
Well, it would do, wouldn't it?
That's
Thus,
nice.
the holly and the ivy. Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Like
just
spicy.
a misty, spicy.
Nice and spicy.
Nice and misty spice.
Oh man, I do suddenly
Beautiful.
feel like I should be around like a warm fire, having a sherry.
Just raise, look, see, natural plants,
not sweating.
herbs
in
and
shorts.
plants can raise the
spirits.
atmosphere, raise this ambiance.
Pretty much every single night before I go to sleep, I put pine oil on my bed. Apart from anything else, do you remember ages ago I read that fact out on Pandora's Box, and it was like, basically, if you're smelling good smells when you're sleeping, you're more likely to have really good dreams.
Things.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And if you smell bad things when you're dreaming, you're more likely to have bad dreams. And I just thought, well, obviously, like, let's face it, right? You want to have good dreams, don't you?
Yeah.
Whatever those good dreams may be, you want them to be good. You know, whether it's you're a superhero or whatever. You know, let your minds go crazy. You know.
So mugworts are supposed to be a really good one for mugworts. If you drink like mugwort tea, which is an English plant as well, mugwort.
And it's got to be with a name like that, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's what they would like
mugwort.
sage, when people like burn sage, like white sage and that. So mugwort is another like slow burning plant that they use like ceremonially and stuff. But you can make teas out of it and stuff, and apparently it super helps your dreams.
Sounds freaking sensual, man.
That's cool.
That sounds
The power of plants.
The power
of plants.
Yeah, but I have this image of my garden just being like just row upon row of rosemary and mint. You know,
I'm always trying nice it'd smell to walk through.
Yeah, I like more, and also rosemary. You know, in terms of like bees and stuff, is one of the things that bees like the most. People might not necessarily think it, because I think people think that bees like you know like massive like buddy stuff, like flower heads and that. But they actually, one of their favorite plants is rosemary. So you're doing a lot of good.
We've got a hell of a lot of lavender out there as well.
Yeah.
Do.
It's like lavender like all the way around the little garden bit that we've got outside.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've got a big lavender bush. We always pick some every year. Em uses it as like natural car air freshener. She'll just like tie some together and just put it up in her car.
Yeah.
And it's mad how much it makes her car smell.
For some reason, like I'm more excited about like herbs and stuff than actually growing vegetables.
I think I'm the
Do you know
same.
what I
I
mean?
don't really
It's
know
a bit
why.
weird, like
they still have a practical application.
Yeah.
I'm not so interested in like having a flower just because it's pretty.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Although I can appreciate it. Do you know what I mean? Like we have got some roses, we've got some red roses and some like yellow roses in our garden, but I think it's cool and I do like to smell them, but I think if they have like a practical application, it just makes it cooler, and you know you're going to use it. I don't want to run out and then be like, oh, I wish I had more. You know, if you're like using something, I know apart from anything else, if you go to a supermarket, it does obviously it costs you money to then buy some herbs or something. Whereas if you just have an abundance of it in your back garden, then it's just awesome.
But I find I'm like more cool to that than like doing like a vegetable patch.
Tomatoes.
Yeah, and like tomatoes and like potatoes and stuff. But
also they
cool,
require more upkeep.
Yeah, that's probably
So
why.
it might be why. Yeah.
And just like I don't know where to start at all, but I can imagine like growing herbs.
Mate, it's
would
not
be
that
quite
hard
easy.
though, really. It's just a matter of just chucking the seeds in the ground, really. And then it's just like, you know, like obviously things like tomatoes prefer to be a bit hotter, so you put them in a greenhouse or under a cover. And then other things, you know, like will be much easier.
I feel like
if it's obviously a natural British veggie, it'll just pretty much grow in the ground. You don't have to worry about it. But
I feel like if you were seasoning a meal and you know, like you were saying, a bit of rosemary on a meal, you would then feel like you'd created the whole meal. Whereas if you were just getting the vegetables, you'd be like, oh, I created that bit. But if you're seasoning the whole meal, that feels like you've added something
Bringing
to
it all
everything.
to life.
Exactly.
yeah, I mean,
to life.
it's funny, isn't it? Like society is like a double-edged sword, like civilization. Because don't get me wrong, like we are very, very like lucky to like live in a society where we have things at our disposal and where we don't necessarily like have to like hunt and like gather and grow our food, because let's face it, like a lot of people physically probably wouldn't even be able to do it. But it's a double-edged sword in terms of like for a lot of the population, it's a really good thing that you can just go to a shop and get everything. But it's so much more fulfilling to actually get your own stuff. And if you are physically able to do it and you actually want to do it, the fact that it's quite difficult nowadays, especially in a country like Britain, it does frustrate you, doesn't it? You know,
it's crazy the actual amount of fulfillment that you get through doing just little things like that. Something that you have to do yourself, nurture yourself, and all of that. Like, it is completely missing from the way that we have it with society, and I think it's like an empty space. That's like that,
I do as well.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's actually like really bad. Like, I think a lot of that, like it's almost like shallow or hollow. There's this hollow feeling with just being able to just go and grab stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
know, rather than actually have the effort of nurturing something to a point where you're more in like
think about how much, whether it's like Native Americans in America or like all our ancient pagan ancestors in like Britain and the rest of Europe, like would have had this sacred, almost like everything to do with like food and the harvest and everything would have been like ceremonial, and, like woven into their religions.
But it's like got so much deeper meaning when you do something like that.
Just
and
like,
it feels like
curly whirly.
Yeah, it feels full. It actually makes you feel full in a different way. Like
that's
like
what life
not a
should be
satisfied
about.
Like belly way, in like a whole being way.
And also, it's like, let's face it, really, if you really take the time and think about it, is it any wonder really that especially things like male suicide rates are like through the roof and like the highest they've ever been? Because, like, you know, that's stuff that's fulfilling to you as a human being, and especially I think as to like a man who would have been more like the hunter gatherer of the tribe and stuff like that. What's more fulfilling in life? Doing that and like, you know, providing for your like family and your loved ones in like, you know, with a big bountiful meal with like, you know, maybe something you've hunted and these vegetables and herbs you've gathered yourself and all that, and spending the day chopping firewood and gathering materials and everything like that, or like ringing Sky and having to wait for an hour because your Sky's not working, and then wondering why you've got this empty frustration, this like weird feeling of like frustration mixed with like anger mixed with almost like hollowness inside you.
Because it's not natural, and we spent thousands of years developing this connection to actually get us through and actually help us survive the journey of being human. And then all of a sudden it's like so different because of technology and society and all of that stuff, and it's just left this like this like bloody
gaping wound.
It's
left a gaping wound.
Gaping societal wound.
I think it's up to humans, isn't it, to decide what is important and what brings people joy and what brings people fulfillment. And it's almost sad that, like you're saying, it is getting left behind a little bit just because of ease.
Yeah. And then I think, you know, you mix in things like that then exacerbate the issue, you know, like so because it is so easy to get food, and because also low foods of a low nutritional value that tend to be higher in unhealthy things like sugar and trans fats tend to be cheaper than healthier foods, you then add factors in like, you know, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, which then obviously is going to make people unhappier as well. So it's almost like... And
it's a bad cycle, man.
Yes, it's a never-ending cycle.
My dad's got an allotment, and he like grows everything himself. Like, we always get all our potatoes through like the whole summer from his allotment, all the greens, all that kind of stuff, strawberries. Nice. And whenever he brings it back, you can just taste the difference.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
Full richness of flavour.
Yeah, baby.
From the soil of your homeland.
Yeah, it's really nice because we've got like a little Royal Gala apple tree in our garden as well, and obviously it is seasonal, so they're just starting to. They're going to be ready, I reckon, like in about a month, maybe within a month. But like, obviously, it's only a couple months a year that you can enjoy it. But as you were saying about, you know, having like your lemon balm tea and that, obviously, when I get that, that's like, you know, there's nothing on that. You know, I don't ever spray anything on my garden. Like,
and
anything,
it's an amazing thing you look forward to once a year when it's the harvest time for that tree, and just like you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get to eat an abundance of apples now. And there's something about waiting, because I do even think that with like vegetables or meat or anything, when I'm eating something, if I actually like just stop and think, I'm like, the amount of time that it's taken for this thing that I'm about to eat to actually grow to what it is now to be ready for me to eat, it's like a massively long process, really. But we just do it in like 2 seconds. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, to appreciate it like that, it takes a year, and you only harvest it, I suppose, for once a year, probably the gala apples, like, or just like a certain few months.
Probably like more than once a year. Yeah, because I guess like. I mean, it's hard for me to say off the top of my head because obviously I'm just like one guy. It's not like I'm going and taking them all at once. Like it's hard for me to say like then would like
but over a few
couple of
months
weeks later,
flowers or fruits.
Yeah, fruits.
Fruits.
Yeah, we've got 4 different apple trees in our garden. We've got Royal Gala apple, we've got some cooking apples, we've got some crab apples, which are like the little ones, which are really tart. Like you can't eat them on their own, but they're good for cooking with. If you want like a nice
cooking apples.
Like a nice but they're a specific type of cooking apple, crab apples. They're like the tiny little,
they're small, aren't they?
Tiny little ready apples. And if you want like a
Still
real tart, like like tart apple flavour, like like in like a baked good, then it's like perfect for that, perfect.
Even clothes, man. Like look at our clothes now, but I think there's a whole part of the thing of like Game of Thrones and like Vikings and stuff. Yeah. You look at the way that they're kitted out, and you know that like that piece of armor and that leather and everything and the belts, and it took a long time and a lot of skill to make it that well.
Tanning,
and just
tanning
all of it,
the hides.
But it's all for a purpose, and man. That must have been so cool to just be walking around in that gear all the time.
Weave your tunic. Yeah, and obviously, like, even though that, like, I know that, like, the clothes in those shows, in Vikings
aren't 100% historically accurate.
Yeah, and obviously I'm saying, like, just in, like, Vikings, obviously Game of Thrones is, like, made up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course it's accurate because it's whatever the hell that George R.R. Martin says it is. But, I know that,
dope.
Dope. All right, that's what it is. All right? Give me my frickin', wolf cloak and some,
the
like,
hound is
leather
like...
and chainmail armor or something,
Yeah.
But I know that like some historians that specialize in things like what people wore and that have criticized shows like The Last Kingdom and Vikings, sometimes saying that there's a bit of an overemphasis on things like leather and stuff, and that maybe the Vikings would have been like a little bit more colorful clothes than is depicted and stuff like that. Because it was, I think it was
more
almost
colourful
like,
folk.
Yeah, I think it was almost like considered like almost like a sign of like wealth, and almost like it was almost like so they would actually have been like surprisingly colourful because it was easy. They would colour stuff easily. They would just use like plants. They'd use like flowers to like dye. Use blood, man. I wonder if like anybody ever did that.
I reckon.
Because obviously it's
blood of your
stains.
enemies.
But you think it would be pretty easy as well. And also, let's face it, it's a nice shade of red, isn't it?
Or like animal blood.
Red.
Doesn't necessarily have to be like human blood, but I suppose you could always get.
You're Viking.
True.
Right, let's crack on. We've got some cool more facts as well prepared for you guys today. Do you know that legend has it that coffee was first discovered by an Ethiopian goat herder named Kaldi? Apparently, wondering why his goats were so jumpy after eating the red berries on a nearby bush, he tried it himself, and the rest is history.
Mate, I tried it when it was red as well, when I was on the coffee farm, before it's actually roasted and everything. When it's ripe, because it goes from green to red, and you kind of like the fruiting body underneath it before it is dried and hard, and then a pip right in the middle, or like it goes really harder towards the middle. So you kind of like chew all of the fruitiness and then spit out like the rest of it that's like thing. But it was so nice. It was like really sweet. It was it's before it's been and I was like, nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it would have been sweet.
Yeah, it was like a sweety, fruity kind of like niceness.
Oh, mate, it sounds nice. I want to try that. Did you know that the word chocolate comes from the Aztec word Oxurcoatl, which means bitter water? I wonder why water. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
Maybe, but because when you make like chocolate drinks or cacao drinks, it's normally just like cacao with water heated up.
So do you think that's the way that
it's
they
bitter?
Would have...
It's very bitter.
That's the way that... I think you're
so
right.
I reckon that's how they would have.
I was thinking like a block of chocolate. But no, you're right.
Block of cacao is this big block of paste, and you scrape bits off it, and you need to kind of sweeten it.
I know that you do as well, because your missus is big on it, isn't she?
Yeah, you sweeten it with like honey or whatever, but on its own, it's quite bitter.
Yeah, our friend Carmen gave my missus like a freaking like brick of cacao.
Mate,
freaking nuts. It's probably bigger than a brick. Did you know that in small doses, and if it's pure, chocolate is actually considered a miracle food? Obviously, chocolate is considered like an unhealthy food,
and because of all the sugar added to it.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it is like in terms of like if you went and bought like a Cadbury's chocolate bar or a Nestle, it would be bad for you. But that's because milk chocolate with all the sugar and everything else. It's not like pure cacao, as Drew was saying. But chocolate in itself, like pure chocolate, is actually considered a miracle food. Studies have shown that regularly eating small portions of pure dark chocolate or pure cacao can lower low density lipoprotein cholesterol, or what's just known as LDL cholesterol. It can also lower your chances of having depression, lower your chances of heart disease, even cancer, and also strokes.
Whoa.
Isn't that amazing?
It's mad, man.
Do you remember I was also telling you that I read a study that came out quite recently? One of the things that's been a really big buzzword in the sort of buzzwords in the last sort of 10 years is stem cell therapy, stem cell treatments, and it's insane. Stem cell therapy is like insane. It can essentially, like, you know, for like especially like athletes that have got really worn bodies that are sort of like in their 50s and 60s that have got like chronic knee pain or back pain or shoulder pain, elbow pain, etc. You know, from like stem cell injections, you can essentially just completely repair it with like fresh cells, and then it'll almost like make it as good as it was when you were like 20 again. So it's amazing. But I remember reading that obviously stem cell therapy at the moment is like very, very expensive. Like really, it's like I don't know exactly how expensive it is, but unless you're like very, very rich, it's sort
Isn't it from the cells of babies?
It's
I think everyone's got stem cells.
Yeah,
don't they?
you do have stem cells in you, I think, but I can't remember whether you I think you can get them from somewhere in the body. I can't remember where.
Spinal fluid.
It might be something like that. No,
I think it's something like that.
I think it is. I think it is something like that. Yeah, you're right.
Rings a bell.
But I can't remember the specifics, the ins and outs. But yeah, unless you're really rich, I don't think it's something that you could get that much at the moment. But I remember reading recently that if you have cacao on a regular basis, it can. I can't remember the ins and outs. I remember basically the takeaway from it was that cacao can essentially put stem cells into your body that can help you repair stuff.
Whoa!
But I can't remember the intricate process, whether it's like it has, you know, essentially stem cells in it, or if it increases your body's ability to produce it, and just something like that. But I remember the bare bones facts, which was basically cacao on like almost like a daily basis. But I think the only thing is that you have to have it like super regularly. Like you have to have it like every day almost. Yeah. You know?
I bought some cacao once, like a bar when I was in Peru, and I didn't realise it wasn't like just like a normal chocolate bar. And I was eating some clumps of it, just like kind of chewing it off, and literally it was like I had about 10 coffees. Like I just felt like buzzing, you know.
It is a stimulant,
and it can be like a proper stimulant.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I think, like, you know, most people do know, don't they, that chocolate is a stimulant. But yeah, it's like crazy when it's in its pure form like that. It is like it's
like way more than if you would just have a chocolate bar or something.
Yeah, mad. Yeah.
Like a different kind of feeling than like Sugar Rush.
Yeah. On the subject of sugar, I think most people know that sugar comes from sugar cane, which is a part of the grass family. So it's just weird, isn't it, in a way, that sugar just comes from grass? Like, that's really weird, isn't it, in a way?
Sweet grass.
When sugar first reached Europe from Southeast Asia, it was a rare luxury. Generally, only royalty could afford to use it, considering that 1 teaspoon could cost the equivalent of £5 in today's money. And nowadays, 1 teaspoon of sugar costs less than a penny. Our love of sugar has only grown sweeter over time. In 1884, the average Westerner consumed 38 pounds of sugar a year. In 2001, so not even recently, this is over 20 years ago, it had gone up to 147 pounds. So from 38 pounds in 1884 to 147 pounds in 2001. That's so much sugar.
Yeah.
Imagine having a silent killer
and 47 pounds of sugar in front of you.
Is sugar the most addictive thing on the earth, do you reckon?
Cocaine.
Yeah, or like heroin, maybe.
Yeah, opium.
Yeah, I don't reckon sugar would be. I don't know. It's hard to say, innit?
Yeah, it is very addictive, and it's crazy.
Things are addictive in different ways as well, aren't they?
Yeah, like, oh god, like seeing kids with sugar in that as well, or just like, you know, they get a taste of it, and it's like they just want more and more and more and more.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it is just a natural thing, I suppose, because it's maybe a bit rarer, or like it's so readily available now. But the process of actually getting sugar, it's like you say, it's only quite a new thing in an actual. Like you know, our history and stuff. It's like, getting a bit of it is like that. Your body almost wants more as well, because it's like it's like salt, isn't it? Like, you know, your body doesn't it store it in a different way or something because it wasn't used to having it or something. So like,
salt?
Yeah. Do you ever hear that like your body? What was it? It was the fact that your body wasn't so used to having it because it was a bit harder to come by back in the day. So that you can overdo it now because your body holds on to it in a different way.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I know that like sodium and stuff helps you like hold water and things like that.
Yeah.
And obviously, I guess it depends. Like, it depends. Like, do you mean like all salt as well? Like even like the really healthiest salts and stuff like that?
Yeah, I can't. It was just something I heard
probably would
about
still
that
apply to that,
your body would like hold on to it or be like, oh, salt, because it would be a bit of a rarer like mineral that you'd have in nature. But then so now our bodies still do it. So we can almost overdo it on salt sometimes.
Yeah, well, obviously there's the saying like worth your weight in salt or something, and it's worth its weight in salt, and that's because salt was historically extremely expensive commodity because it is sort of like a miracle food in a way.
Yeah.
Not only obviously in small doses is like very good
all
salt.
the minerals that it's held in it and that. So so your body's like, give me that.
After a good workout, one of the best things to sort of replenish your electrolytes and stuff is like a high quality salt.
Doesn't it give you like a bit of a pump as well?
Sodium is responsible for muscle function and in specifically muscle contraction. So obviously if you think about some of the classic bicep tense, you see someone's biceps suddenly like enlarge and grow bigger.
Sodium,
sodium is largely responsible for that. Like, if you had like a massive sodium deficiency, even if you were a very muscular person, you would find it hard to tense your muscles. And that's why it's important, obviously, to remember, especially if you are a super physically active person, especially if you're a quote unquote sweater, to make sure you're getting your electrolytes in, whether it's through electrolyte supplements or just through being mindful of, what the electrolytes are and what foods contain them, sodium, calcium, potassium, all that good stuff.
Get those good bit then.
Yeah, this just especially at this time of year, like recently I've started taking like a little electrolyte supplement while I've been working out because I sweat just like all day long pretty much in this weather. It's been so hot recently, and I can like tell a difference. It makes me feel like a little bit less lethargic. So it's good, it's definitely worthwhile in my opinion. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you know that the hottest pepper in the world is the Bahut Jolakia from Assam, India? Researchers at New Mexico State University determined it reaches 1 million units on the Scoville scale, which is like the scale. Obviously that measures different spices. The reigning pepper before Boot was the red Savina, which measured a mere 577,000.
Double that.
So almost double. That's crazy, isn't it?
What's like a ghost pepper?
I don't know. I've heard that's like ridiculously hot.
Yeah, or like a Carolina Reaper or something like that.
I think that might be like the one that's like the hottest that is like still safe in small quantities for us to consume. I think that probably that Boot Jolakia would be like too dangerous for us to consume.
It says here the ghost pepper crowned the spiciest pepper on the Scoville scale at 800,000 to 1,001,300 SHU. But I suppose there must be like maybe they've done more research because there's other ones that are telling me it's interesting. Interesting.
This one here says it's the Boot Jolakia, which is about 1 million. So I don't know.
Boot Jolakia.
But
get them all away from me.
I know you're
thank you.
You're a bit sensitive to them, aren't you? But
I start sweating watching Hot Ones.
I was going to say, if we ever do something that's like not a podcast but like an interview thing, Hot Ones would be such a cool video for us to film. I'd love to do a Hot Ones episode. That'd be awesome.
What, just us eat spices?
Doing like a thing where spices on the chicken wings,
and you ask like more questions as they go, and they get spicier and spicier. That'd be a real fun episode.
Yeah, I have seen a couple of them. Yeah, of like Scarlett Johansson and a couple of other ones. Yeah.
We could
get real A-listers on there nowadays. It's crazy. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Shoot a little pod in Friar Tucks and try and do their challenge or something. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be better at spices than I am now. I'm still pretty good, but I remember I used to get this. Hot sauce called Meat Lust, and it was so freaking hot. Like for anybody that like, I still use like Frank's on my food a lot. So for anyone that like likes Frank's, it made Frank's like look like mayonnaise in comparison to my eyes. But like I used to smother like all of my freaking meat in. I'm
alright eating it. It's just
I'd almost like use the Meat Lust as like a marinade. So I'd marinate it in the Meat Lust, cook it in. I'm pretty sure that had ghost chili in it,
Meat Lust,
if I remember rightly. And I'd cook it in that, so it would already be like spicy as hell when it came out. And then I'd put a load of Frank's on it. And like, I was like, I'm surprised my bunghole could even
crazy.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? It's mad that like if you can build a tolerance to that though. But like nowadays, I try and go a little bit easier on it. I think I did go through a stage where it was almost like I was like pushing the limit, and then it almost got to the point where I was like, what's the point of me doing this? Like, what am I doing this? But so I'm definitely not as hardcore with the peppers I used to be. But spice is another thing, a little bit like, we were saying about like pure chocolate and stuff that can be very beneficial to have on a consistent basis. Spices can help fight colon cancer. Patients taking regular doses of curcumin, which is found in turmeric, a main ingredient in curry, and quercetin, which is an antioxidant which is found in onions, have seen as much as a 60% drop in the number of cancerous polyps on their digestive tract.
Interesting.
I take quercetin as a supplement daily anyway, because it is like a known immune support. So
isn't the
no
reason
polyps for me, baby?
Isn't the reason that a lot of hot countries have like hot food, like India and places like that, is because they want to sweat because the sweat cools them down from the sun?
Well, I don't think India even have that much spicy food. Really, it's more of like a Western thing to like us to have.
They have lots of spices, but not necessarily
not hot food.
the hot spices. Like
apparently, Mexico is really the one that like
Right.
has got like hot food. Like Mexicans put a lot of like chili and stuff. Whereas, as you said, like they do use a lot of
spices, but like not hot spices.
But I don't think that like their average curry that you would have in like India or Bangladesh or Pakistan, I think that you would almost be underwhelmed. Like you'd expect it to be spicy, and apparently it's not really that spicy. Like
I love like the butteriness
Yeah.
of like the cut. Like they use a lot of ghee in that, which is just like refined butter and everything. Just like, oh man, that's so nice.
That's crazy that's something. That's something that the West has just created
really
as the spiciness within that.
Yeah, I've had I heard it before, but I also like one of my good mates, Art. She's like a British Pakistani, and like his grandmother obviously like grew up and spent a long time in Pakistan before she moved over, and he's talked to me about it a lot, and he's like, all the curries we get home and that, they're never really that spicy. It's tasty. It's really tasty,
cool.
and it does have lots of turmeric in it, and it will maybe have like and garlic and onions and maybe a little bit of chili, but it's never
saffron.
Like it's never but it's never even like enough really to like burn your mouth or anything. As I said, it's Mexican food. They're the ones that go crazy on like the spiciness.
Arriba.
Chipotle.
Chipotle. This is a nice little fact. Did you know that in Gaelic, whiskey translates to the water of life? The water of life. As whiskey fans, then I'm digging that. At any given time, there are 18.5 million barrels of whiskey maturing in casks throughout Scotland.
That's another one that's like 18-year-old whiskey and stuff like that. It's a long old time, isn't it? To be just brewing something up and thinking long for that little sip that you take over in 2 seconds. Like,
I think there's almost like something a bit special about whiskey, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? There does seem, because I think especially if you do have one that's been matured for a long time, and it's almost like, what casks have these been matured in? Like, is it like a sherry one?
Yeah.
Or is it like a brandy one?
Yeah.
Or whatever. It's like just cool, isn't it? And then it's like, after you've tried a few, you know which ones you like. Like, do you like one with more like vanilla and sort of like sherry undertones? That's like a bit more like, and cinnamony? Or do you want like that really like smoky peaty one?
Yeah,
Ardbeg, or something like that. Yeah. It's really interesting. My Uncle John, like he knows, he's like an expert on it. He could tell you like, depending on where you are in Scotland, like what type of whiskey they make at that part and stuff. And he's like, oh no, that's more like a Highland one, or that's like a what are they called? Like an island one or something like that. So that's quite cool. In-depth whiskey knowledge. Mm-hmm. Do you know that humans are the only animals whose brains shrink as we get older?
Oh.
That's weird, isn't it?
Whoa.
Yeah. But apparently one way to reduce the shrinkage of the brain is through exercise. A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found the hippocampus, the memory center of the brain that tends to shrink as we age, in seniors actually grew 2% in those who walked 3 times a week or did strength exercises and or yoga exercises.
I wonder if like brain training as well, like where you're actually using your mind in a, people that are like super academic and stuff like that, whether that changes your brain in any way physically.
I remember reading that one of the reasons that reading is so beneficial for the brain isn't just because you're literally taking in knowledge through what you're reading, but apparently the movement of moving your eyes from left to right, which is obviously what you do when you're scanning and reading a page from left to right, increases your memory, your ability to memorize.
Whoa.
So and I remember it was like every now and again. I remember I probably heard that like over 10 years ago, and it's one of those things that every now and again pop into my head, and I just want to go like, trying to get like
working out.
Oh, that feels
memory.
weird trying to do that. Like,
really fast.
It's like, oh yeah.
Whoa.
Oh man, when it goes all blurry, doesn't it? But suddenly I can just remember everything.
To be fair, reading feels like a workout for me. Whenever I read a couple pages of book, I'm like, I've got to go to bed, man.
Well, it is one of the best things to make you go to sleep, isn't it? It's very relaxing.
That's what almost annoys me a bit. Like, if I really want to spend a good hour on a book or something, like, I get 30 minutes in and I'm like, I can't read anymore.
Yeah.
Obviously, not so much nowadays. I think a lot of people obviously read stuff on their phones or computer screens, but like obviously that it's almost probably dimming the effects because of the light of the phone or the telly or whatever. But
there's nothing like a good book.
And a nice page, it's so relaxing, just like and then Bathsheba had a good old rump in the hay with Farmer Oak. Oh mate, falling asleep.
Yeah,
you know?
Sweet dreams, baby.
Sweet dreams, Bathsheba. yeah. This is an interesting one as well. Did you know that the brain cannot actually feel pain?
Wow.
You might think that obviously the brain is responsible for you feeling pain, but it may be the center of the nervous system that processes every itch, burn, or stubbed toe, but it has no sensory nerve system to detect any tissue damage, pressure, or discomfort.
Wow. So is that what? So
that's obviously why I say, like, if you severed your spinal cord at the bottom, not only would you be paralyzed, but you wouldn't be, if you like stabbed yourself in the leg, you wouldn't feel any pain. So I guess it's more to do with like, so your brain can't control that. It's got to be. No, but your brain itself can't discern pain. It's more to do with our. Because I want to say, like, when like people say get, I know it's a bad subject, but like burnt alive in that, and they say after 60 seconds you would just can't
go
feel anything.
Yeah. Would that be because that would be because the nerves are burnt? It wouldn't be because your brain. Because I always thought it was like your brain is almost protecting you by turning those pain sensors off.
I don't think it is that. I literally, or like sometimes you'll hear say like people that have like really savage.
Oh man, I've got no feeling in this part of my finger here. It's not like severed. I severed that.
Yeah, so that's not because your brain has like shut that off. That's because you've literally cut off the nerves that feel pain.
Yeah.
I remember my mum and dad said that they knew a guy in college who was like born with this condition where like he could like move but he couldn't feel, so he like could feel stuff but he just didn't have the ability to feel pain. And he said sometimes he'd get like drunk and as a party trick, it's a pretty stupid thing to do really, innit? But like you can see 41 minutes. You can see like what it's a stupid thing to do, but you can see why like a young lad would do this. I could imagine myself doing something stupid like this at that age. He would sometimes just like boil up some water and just put his hand in it, almost as like a party trick. Because obviously everyone would be like, it would like freak everyone out, but he'd just be like, it was laughing, and then obviously his hand would be like blistered for days, but he just wouldn't be able to feel it, so he almost like wouldn't care.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that why? So who died from drowning?
Was a lot of people.
There's a celebrity that died in a bath.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was because they were like took a load of drugs.
Anna Nicole Smith.
Maybe. I don't think so, but maybe.
I do remember hearing
she died in the bath, didn't she?
Super hot bath.
They took like a load of drugs and then they just couldn't feel anything and just boiled, like literally made like a boiling hot bath and just went and like basically cooked herself. But she like couldn't feel that it was like burning hot. She just didn't feel the receptors. Did she not tell that
she was dying?
Probably just two, yeah.
Then she just passed out and then died?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, actually, I can imagine that being the case. Because, like, really hot water, like a hot bath, sort of makes you a bit sleepy and drowsy anyway, doesn't it?
Boiling hot bath makes you dead.
yeah, literally.
Damn.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Did you know that the brain is the fattest organ in the body, made of 60% fatty tissue?
The brain is?
Your big fat brain.
Oh, your big fat brain.
Your fatty brain. Did you know that sneezers can travel at 100 miles an hour?
Oh, nice.
That's why it's important to cover your mouth when you sneeze. Otherwise, you're just freaking 100 mile an hour sneeze right in someone's face, right opposite you on the table.
Man, sometimes there's nothing more satisfying than a sneeze, is there?
Definitely quite orgasmic, I think.
Yeah.
It's like same receptors.
It's like tickling an itch.
Yeah. It's like an itch, an orgasm, and a sneeze. They're all like kind of
intertwined.
Yeah, they're intertwined in some weird way.
It's Whitney Houston, by the way, that I was thinking of.
Oh, was it? Another troubled lass. Yet another troubled lass dying in a bath. Do you know that the practice of blessing someone when they sneeze goes back to at least ancient Rome? Pliny the Elder asked in one of his documents, why is it that we salute a person when he sneezes, in his book Natural History, written in 77 AD?
Wow.
So it's like one of those things that we almost just like do, but we don't really know why it started. But they were doing it back, 2,000 years ago, and they still like sort of like it was already a tradition then. So it seems that like because they say it's like almost they used to think that if you like when you were sneezing, you were like expelling demons, didn't they? I thought that was like if you go back really far enough, I thought that was quite interesting. Yeah. Did you know that you should never ever hold in a sneeze? It's actually like considered quite dangerous thing to do. Physicians warn that holding a sneeze in can cause everything from damaged eardrums to nosebleeds, and even in some extreme cases, a detached retina.
Whoa!
Imagine sneezing and just not holding it in, and the eye was just popping out.
I know what you mean. Like, you know, when you actually sneeze, but you go.
And
so I think it's that, because that can like pop your eye out.
So I don't like, you know, because you can stop yourself.
Yeah, because I thought that's what it meant. When you hold it in, like.
But don't try and contain the power.
Yeah, do not contain the power of the sneeze.
Expel the power.
Little life fact for you about sneezing. If you're ever in a situation where you're gonna sneeze and let's say you need to be silent. If you put your finger like where your mustache would be and just press,
you're just like you're doing an impression of Hitler, mate.
Oh yeah. If you do an impression of Hitler, you will not sneeze. But if you press down right below your nose, you don't need to sneeze anymore.
Oh, that's mad, isn't it?
That's cool. I'm gonna remember that.
I've used that a couple times before.
Does the sun ever make you guys sneeze? You heard this one?
Mate, didn't know that's so funny. That was the next fact I was going to read out.
I know, it's just so random. It happened to me loads, and then I looked it up because I was like, why the hell, when I walk outside and I look at the sun, I all of a sudden start
That was literally my next fact. It's scientists have a name for it. It's called autosomal cholinergic helio-ophthalmic outburst.
I call it a sunny sneeze.
Also known as ACHOO or achoo.
Achoo.
Seriously, that's what it's known as. Isn't it funny?
That's
There's some
hilarious.
people literally sneeze when they look at the sun.
Yeah, I've got it. Meg's got it, and I remember I'd asked quite a few people, like,
and they have it as well.
No, a lot of time it was just like they didn't, and then me and Meg walked out one day and both just did it at the same time. I was like, oh, you've got it as well. And she was like, yeah. And I was like,
you're also allergic.
We are meant to be together.
Yeah. And then they went frolicking off into the forest,
Sneezing.
skipping, holding hands, barefoot. Did you know that women sweat less readily than men? In studies, they have to build up more body heat before they start sweating than men.
It's because they need more moisture in their bodies.
Is that your theory?
For just for special occasions.
Oh, baby, yeah, because really, we rely on them.
Exactly.
You know, we can't secrete that.
No.
You know. I mean, what are we talking about?
Keep those juices in, baby.
Yeah. Let's switch it up now. So some facts about.
Come on, man, you're on a roll with them. You got more in the bank. You're saving these up.
Preparation H.
Yeah.
This is Preparation H. This is some facts about the workplace and the psychology. I guess we could call it psychology behind like bosses and different types of bosses. Each year, the organisation eBoss Watch gathers a panel of workplace experts to select America's worst bosses. The number one worst boss of 2010 went to Dallas Fire Rescue Chief Eddie Burns, whose sexual harassment lawsuits cost the city $1.4 million in legal fees. Actor Steven Seagal ranked 46th after an assistant sued him for sexual harassment.
Damn.
This is a crazy fact, and it just goes to show how sordid humankind can be, even in so-called civilized environments. Up to 7% of people in the West say they have slept with their boss. 7%.
That's quite a lot, isn't it? Really.
Hey, if you chuck on another 3%. That's 1 in 10. 1 in 10 people.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's not 1 in 10 people, it's 7%, but it's still like a lot. I think 5% would be 1 in 20. So it's like in between so it's like 1 in 15, essentially. Let's just say 1 in 15 people have slept with their boss.
Do you reckon
that is a staggeringly higher number?
Do you reckon that hails back to like, say like in tribals or like alpha kind of thing?
Power.
It is. It's
you're going to get
alpha
special
is the
attention.
Boss. So so the women will be naturally
attracted
to the
You'll get
do you know what I mean? There's just like a progression of
mate, it makes sense.
I'm going to cut some corners.
You're not going to get told off if you come into work late, or at least you're not going to get into trouble as much. You're probably going to get a pay rise quicker, if not instantly.
And there's always that thing of like of something being like sneaky or something that's quite like turns you on a bit.
Some people I think really like have that.
Yeah,
like just something being taboo is a turn on.
Yeah,
you know. Apparently, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people like have extramarital affairs and things like that. It's almost like they know they shouldn't, so it's
almost
eternal.
the only way that they can get turned on anymore.
Yeah, weird, man, isn't it? Chasing the dragon.
Yeah.
Right, we're gonna take a break a minute, people. We'll be back in a minute. But yeah, that is mad, isn't it? That whole taboo thing, like that. It's definitely a thing, isn't it?
Well, it's like I swear all porn is just
taboo
stepsisters and stuff like that.
Did you see that?
Lesbian MILF.
Did you see that on Joe Rogan? I saw like Joe Rogan and Theo Von talking about it the other day, and he was saying about I don't know if it's the latest one. I think it was a bit of an older one.
Oh, really? He didn't do it quite a new one.
He just did
Fortnite.
Nice. I need to watch that. But this one was from 10 months ago, and it was just after lockdown and that. And Joe Rogan was saying like throughout lockdown and stuff, like pretty much all the porn that he saw, he must watch porn quite a bit, which I was pretty surprised at. But like he was like, it's all about like the stepmother's asleep in the bed, and like and like the girl's getting like and like the daughter's getting like fucked in the bed, and then the stepmom's next to her, and like they're saying that
there's
was
also
like
a lot where it's like
and Theo's like, yeah, that's because everyone was just in their homes in a lockdown.
Yeah.
So just playing out the fantasies for the crowds.
Another stuff that's like big, isn't it? It's like it's either like bride like shags the best man.
Yeah.
In like the back room or even like fucking like this mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It's like whoa. Like imagine that. You're literally like about to get married in 10 minutes, and in the back room your missus is like in a fucking like bridal gown, scissoring your mum.
Mate, I always remember like there was this guy called and he was a bit like, do you remember years ago I did this like when I was on the dole for like 6 months or something, like after Asda.
We've all been there, mate. We've all been there.
And literally like and I worked at Iceland like doing little shifts. But I did this thing with the Prince's Trust where like it was to help you get into work, and I went away with like all these specials from Bridgewater basically that were like on like some camps and stuff.
Special needs are just you.
Yeah, but they weren't actually specials. They were just like retrobates. You know what I mean? Like, and there was this one called Steve, and he was telling me, and he was like, "Yeah, and I was around my mate's house, and my mate went out upstairs, and then he came downstairs." And I was just on the thing, just fucking his mum. I was like, oh man, that sounds sad. But apparently he just walked in and she was just there like riding him. And I was like,
the way that some people live like blows my mind.
Yeah.
Can you imagine you walk in on me banging your mum? Like, it just wouldn't happen. You know what I mean?
It's the fact that he's just gone upstairs. Maybe he's just gone to pick something up, comes back down, you're just mid-action.
Yeah, like, how did that even, like, get initiated?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how does that start? Just, like, pop upstairs for 2 seconds. Wanna bang? Yeah. Well, jump on then. Like, what? How the fuck does that happen?
Mental. Man.
Yeah, it's just like, I just can't imagine that. Like in our sort of like friendship group,
no, it's just, but in some
breed of people,
parts of society, it's the norm.
It's so funny that life can be so different for people that are in like almost similar circumstances as well. Like there are people that will probably live. I bet there's a lot of people in Bridgewater that live the complete, absolute opposite life to us.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, we're like in the same sort of surroundings. Like you wouldn't think it would be that different, but it just is.
Oh yeah. 100%.
There are many shades of grey.
50. In fact.
Many more. It's all a ploy. There are much more than 50. There are more shades than grains of sand on the earth.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everything's relative, isn't it? It's like, I guess like whatever is your like most shocking sexual experience to some people might be shocking to other people. It might be like child's play. You just don't know, do you?
Yeah,
it's like
true.
I was listening on a podcast with that Sabri guy that I've been doing those calls with, and he's like, he had his own martial arts school and everything like that, and he went and from when he was young, he didn't have many interactions with girls and stuff, and then he said he was just one holiday when he was like 25, went over to like Greece or something or some place like that, and he was like a bouncer for this club, and he said in that like 1 year he slept with like 200 people or something, like in that one like stint of being like, it went from like nothing to just all of a sudden, and he was saying like, oh yeah, it got to the point where it'd be like multiple people per day, girls and stuff and different, and I'm just like, fucking hell, that's like mental, but like how it just became like a norm for him. And then he was saying like whenever he then got into like normal relationships, it was weird because he'd be having sex a lot with that person, but he was having more sex when he was out of a relationship, like, which was a strange thing, like, because you're in that like honeymoon, you think you'd be doing it all the time and that, but he would be having like multiple like interactions like per day, like sometimes. And I was like, mate, that's, and he said it was crazy how quickly things would be from like meeting someone to like getting to be able to like do that, and you know, just in that situation. I'm like, mate, that sounds like mental.
I think like anything in life, it just becomes a way of life, so it becomes easy to use.
Yeah,
because it's almost like you know the formula now.
Yeah,
you know?
And that was it. And he said it was like a formula. You know, I'm like, cool. Show me that formula.
Yeah, I mean,
baby.
I was never like that, but I definitely like. There's like an element where I think like, you know, you can tune into that like a little bit.
Yeah, I've never had it, man. Like it's always really intrigued me, but like I've never been free and confident enough to completely capitalize.
Which is funny because in some ways you are very much like, you know, fuck it, innit?
Yeah,
but just in that regard, not so much.
Yeah, just like a bit. And it was a massive struggle for me for years, but like definitely intrigues me.
There's definitely been certain sexual encounters where I've literally just be like, I'm gonna pick up this girl now.
Yeah,
and
I always remember in Prague.
Yeah.
It's down in those dungeony bits, and it's like a super fucking hot, like blonde who was sort of dancing and that. Next minute, she's giving you a BJ in the toilet.
No, she was fucking well hot as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was so hot. She was like the hottest girl I'd ever seen.
I remember you and Joe Wynn were like really drunk and like really freaking like trying on with her, but where you guys were like way more wasted than me, it came across as like fucking hilarious. Yeah. And I remember thinking you two were probably being a little bit over the top. So I was like, all right, guys, like.
This is how it's done.
Like back. Like, leave her alone a little bit now. Leave her a little alone, and then she.
And then you were the knight in shining armor.
And then she just was like, "Oh yes, thank you for that." She was like, "I'm not really into your friends, but I'm into you." And I was like,
"Let's go."
All right, cool.
Ballerina lady.
Yeah.
Wasn't she like super stretchy or something? You were saying I swear like she was.
Oh, no, I remember like different. Yeah, I got her number. We were like randomly chatting a little bit afterwards, and it was almost like we were saying like we might meet up, but obviously we never did. Because I live in a different country to her. But then, yeah, she was like telling me she was a ballerina and stuff. I remember we'd be like on the little coach and that, on the little minibus, like driving around Prague, and I'd just be like messaging her like a little bit. But it was like really weird because you could tell she didn't speak English that great. Obviously, way fucking better than I can speak Czech, but all of her messages were quite like blocky. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Missing out some words.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I swear I'd actually speak like that sometimes. When I read my text, I'm like, oh, I should put an and there, or I should put some. Sometimes I just miss words out.
Well, I think sometimes, you know, if you're in a rush or something, your mate's gonna get it, aren't they?
I remember going to Run to the Sun once, and I just done a bomb, and I was just like fucking like
just started banging everyone. Started banging
I went
every
in,
chick
and I didn't bang them, but like I remember I got off with like 2 or 3. I don't know if it was 2 or if it was 3, but just like within the space of like an hour. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, whoa, that was crazy. And and it was. It's like, because when like that is just like super just confident. Like for however it affected me, it just made me like super alert and have zero inhibitions at all. But not in a drunken way where you say stupid stuff. But it was literally like I'm on fucking like top form in every part of my life right now.
Mate. I'm on fucking top form.
Yeah. Whereas I could like literally chat to anyone, but like really be like fully in the moment with it and like think. I remember Glastonbury as well, like Glastonbury Festival in 2014. Everyone was just like quite normal and just wanted for a walk around the festival. But I did some then as well, and then we were going down all of the different like shops to like you know that we hadn't been around that part of Glastonbury, and I remember just chatting to everyone then as well, just in the same way of just saying. And there was this like really hot girl that was working in one of the like working in one of like the clothing thing shops and that, and she was a bit like this. But then I started talking to her and I was and you're like so in thing and that. And then she started like talking to me and then like putting like makeup on and stuff. Like when she was done, it was like really weird. Like almost like being like from being like this to be like, oh, actually, I'm gonna like doll myself up a bit now.
She was
like,
peacocking herself.
Yeah. And I was like, what? And it was, and then I kept getting taken away from all of these situations because they'd be like, come on, Drew, come on now, we're going now to the next place. But it was like literally like that. In every spot that we stopped, I would just get in this real like deep conversation with like people, and it's mental. It's just that thing of like confidence and no inhibitions, but not in a way that you're fucked and you're like or anything like that, but just being like super direct and thing. And it's like, oh yeah.
I think being direct is so important.
Yeah, yeah.
I think if you think a woman's beautiful and you like her, just go up to her and tell her. Every now and again, if it's maybe like a real stuck-up girl, she might laugh at you. Fuck her. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, you know man. Like being totally honest about how you feel in a certain moment.
It's because let's face it as well. Also, your ego's got to be through the fucking roof, and you got to be a bit of a fucking twat. If like somebody comes up to you and says like, "Oh, I think you're like really beautiful," like, you're like, "Can I get you like a drink or get your number or something?" And then they just laugh at you. Then
I suppose it's the way you do it as well. If you go up and you're like,
to you know,
I think you're really beautiful. Like that'll be different to like being direct and in your presence and being like, you're really beautiful, you know. And it's like, that'd be
Yeah, I can imagine that'd be quite nice for it to hear.
And it's almost like, to me, it's almost like if anyone ever did sort of want to take the mick out of you for that, it's like, well, she is beautiful. Don't you think she's beautiful? Of course she's fucking beautiful. Everyone thinks she's beautiful. Just that you're not saying it. So why are you going to laugh at me because I said it? You know? It's like, like, anybody with eyes thinks this woman's beautiful, so I just said it to her. What's wrong with that? You know? It doesn't even have to be in like a pervy way. It's just like, it's like a painting. It's beautiful. And that woman's beautiful too, you know? I'm just saying what's obvious.
Yeah, man. I think it's always about the way something's done, isn't it? Because like I can imagine someone saying that to a girl that knows she's beautiful and it making her feel uncomfortable if they're like a bit of you know what I mean? If you're like, do you know what I mean? Like you can imagine the kind of guy that's just like showing off and like going like that. I can imagine wouldn't go down. But if you're like in your honesty and like you're being like honourable in the way you do it, that's going to go across good. But then also if you do it in a way that's shy, then that's going to go across bad. So do you know what I mean? It's got to be like the right one in the middle. Like you can either be over cocky and look like a bit of a dick, or you can be like honourable in the middle, or
depends
you can
like
be
what you're saying, doesn't it? Like the way I say it, it's like, you know, it's on a very basic level. It's like if you want to say something nice to somebody, then you should probably say it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think nothing bad ever came about in life from saying something nice to somebody.
But you probably weren't ever doing it like to show off or anything. Do you know what I mean? It's just so that's cool. Like it comes across as like.
It's more just like, as I said, to my head, it's almost like a simple thing. It's like if you see someone you think they're beautiful, you tell them that they're beautiful, then how is that like a bad thing? What they want to do with that knowledge is up to them, isn't it? But it's like, that's fair enough. You know?
Just flicking their beans straight there. Thank you. Thank you.
And and like some really like shy people and decent people might even feel a bit embarrassed, but to me that would almost make it like maybe even like think even more of them, because I would think, wow, this person's like super humble, and that's like even more attractive in this moment, you know. And then you could just obviously maybe put them at ease and just be like, oh no, sorry, I don't want me to like make you blush or anything. I just thought it and just thought I'd say it or something, you know.
Yeah. So you're playing out this fantasy now, aren't you, man?
I'm getting like a rock and write a erotic novel, mate. With the main character Calvin White.
Mate, you should actually do that. You thought about that, haven't you?
You fucking thought of that, mate. Oh, mate, yeah. Fucking started writing it, mate. It's already finished. Oh, sunny, isn't it?
Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Oh. For those listening on Das Radios, you are hearing Opeth now playing you out.
Thank you, Opeth.
Thank you, Opeth, you Swedish wonder beans. We love the Swedes. We love the Swedes. We were just like having a chat during those tracks about loads of actually hilarious like sexual stories, aren't we? In a way, I feel like bad because I feel like a lot of like the nitty gritty, like juicy gold of today's episode was probably just like,
maybe we can put that bit on YouTube.
Yeah, maybe.
Ain't no censors.
Maybe
ain't nothing.
Ain't no.
Let's make sure with some names and stuff.
Yeah.
Let's take away some names. Yeah, no. Make sure it's edited. I don't want anybody's like, you know.
All the finer details.
Because obviously, where we weren't recording, we were talking a bit more openly about past experience with names and stuff. So we got to be really careful. So definitely don't just put it out, fellas.
Yeah.
But maybe we can be crafty.
Because there was a bit of gold in there, I reckon.
There was a bit of gold, but yeah, any mention of actual people's names need to be taken away. Just to, you know, out of decency and all that. You know, drawing the line between being sort of like open, but you still want to be like a bit of a gentleman. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
You know, it's quintessential British gentleman. Yeah, like I don't know, like, you don't have to answer this, either of you guys, but just because, let's face it, people listening will freaking love this, because this is what humans are like, aren't they? Obviously, without naming like any like names or situations, what would you say is like the because we were talking obviously before we even went into like those songs and stuff about how like 7% of people in the West admit to sleeping with their boss, and about we were talking about how like taboo like stuff. It's almost like people get off on that whole taboo thing, and then like, you know, crazy experiences. What would you say is like the craziest sexual experience that you've had that you would feel comfortable talking about on air? Without obviously going into specifics, just like...
For me, just like many nature sessions.
Oh, nice.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that, like, it's the most...
He once made love to an owl. In a tree.
No, with a beautiful young lady. But, like, I'm not so much like it, like, you know... like kind of in work or like in like on a plane.
That's more just cranking one out in the toilet.
Yeah. All right, Calum, we said about what we're comfortable with on air.
Oh yeah, sorry mate. Yeah.
But yeah, just like so there was always some really nice, beautiful experience out in nature. I feel like you're supported by the spring energy of the nature's abundance and the fertility and the smell of the flowers and the trees and the breeze on your bottom.
Oh yeah, on your balls as they're waving to
and fro. Waving in the winds.
Yeah. Well, that's nice, man. That's not even... I think that's just more like nice than
extreme.
But I know what you mean. Like, let's face it, especially if you're...
been in some great, not crazy places, but like up in the woods and in the trees and stuff, and that always does seem a bit like... Ooh, could someone
because somebody
around?
Can walk about. Yeah, no, and let's face it, especially if you're like maybe like a religious person or I don't know, whatever, just prudish in general. Yeah, obviously, the idea that you could like walk around a corner when you're out for like a little walk and then just see your bare ass like humping somebody in the forest is quite a hilarious thought. Or like a rude thought to them. They'd be like, "Oh my god, this is outrageous." Whereas to you, you're like, "What do you want about, lady?
We're out in nature.
I'm just having a good time." It's nothing that the
mate.
Foxes and the badgers and the deers aren't doing.
Yeah, that's it. Just getting warm with that.
It's true though, isn't it? I mean, you wouldn't really bat an eyelid if you just were like out on a walk and you saw an animal humping. You might think it was a bit funny.
Yeah.
What about you, Bullwinkle?
Probably just sort of public needed to be.
Oh man.
Needing to be like quiet sort of thing, you know. But that's probably
Oh right.
Yeah.
Needing to be quiet.
like in public, like around people sort of thing. Yeah.
Danger.
Danger. Oh yes.
Oh
Danger. Oh my god. That is
No, I know what you mean though with that because it is always. Like,
oh yes. Danger. Oh, that's so.
I was
funny.
gonna say danger W, but like danger sesh.
Yeah.
Danger sesh.
Oh yeah, like so you know, like
Danger
there's
sesh.
people around.
Yeah.
It's
Not
not-
like you in the tent at download where you think.
Oh man. Yeah, well, you think for some reason because there's like a thin membrane.
What you can't see, you
Well,
can't hit. You
It's,
can't.
it's like frickin' Schrodinger's box, mate.
Well, yeah.
Are we even alive in there? Are we even in there?
Yeah. Exactly.
Let alone what's going on in there.
Yeah. You're sheltered from the world at large.
Meanwhile, there's people who...
The world at large can hear everything.
Yeah, man. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the harsh reality of it. But to my young brain, nope.
You're in your own little bubble.
It's so funny, like stupid things you think in it, like that, like, oh well, you know, I'm sure
Makes so
no
much
one can
sense
hear
to
us.
you
It's
at
like,
the
mate,
time.
it's the middle of the day and there's people like 3 feet away from you.
Yeah.
We don't have this massive extended
A tent
campsite.
muffles nothing.
Yeah, there's like massive extended campsite
Millimeter
with like
thick piece of fabric.
yeah, like several close friends, but a lot of the people I wasn't even really good close friends. They were just people in the bridgy music scene. I mean, we had this big sort of we all camped together. So it was, you know, as you can imagine, usual suspects like Coxie, like
Yeah.
I think Becky, is it Criddles?
Quidland.
Yeah, and like loads of people like that were there. Oh man, funny times, innit? Funny times. Yeah, I mean, I thought it would be worth asking a story because without trying to lower the tone, people love a little bit in nitty-gritty, don't they?
I know Meg always said to me, one of hers was like on a boat in Thailand, just on a speedboat, like going
on a
out.
boat.
And I was like, that
was it going really fast at the time?
Don't know. I didn't
Probably
I
not.
didn't want to know.
It'd be hard to steer while you were doing it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Haven't you like done something naughty in a car while you've been driving?
Many times.
The way you said that, like you're like Hugh Hefner or something. Many times.
I don't know how graphic we can get on that because we're on the radio as well.
I think as long as we don't. Oh no, let's face it. It's late at night. As long as we're not swearing or saying anything too explicit, going in depth, we're just talking about some experiences.
I quite like that in the car, getting a nice.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
We
Everyone knows.
know what you're saying.
As
We know
you're
what you're
driving.
Yeah.
And the person next to you is not doing much else apart from satisfying your needs. That's always quite fun. Because you're also like, can I drive at the same time?
Doing their best impression of a turkey gobbler.
Yeah, exactly. That was always quite cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, should we leave it there? We'll leave it there then, everyone. Write in if any of you people out there that
tell us your stories.
Don't mind.
I've never had an orgy or anything like that.
No specifics.
I think
I haven't had an orgy.
That sounds quite interesting when you think back of like Roman times now,
Greeks.
how free and open they were with their sexuality and just
did they?
like in a joint situation of just lots of people and that. It's like when I had that naked sauna for the first time with just like so many people and how just normal it felt. Like, but how big thing it's being completely naked around all these people in a sauna.
Yeah.
Like nothing went anything further than just all
Being
enjoying,
naked.
and just chatting and stuff. But then it makes me think, like, would it also be normal just to have this big orgiastic?
But would it have also been normal if someone put a finger in my butt?
Right now? But do you know what I mean? Like, is it quite a natural human thing to like have? Is it a very private thing? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, say like tribally, or when you're thinking about the lineage of a human being, like has it always been a private affair? Or was there a time? Obviously, there was for the Germans, for the Romans.
Obviously, it was for the Germans.
They're quite free and open.
You
as
know
well,
what they're like in their latex, in their freaking in their latex onesies or whatever you want to call them.
But do you know what I mean? Like,
I think it is still like a thing, isn't it? People do still have like huge parties and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
but I've never been involved. I've never been involved.
I've never been invited.
Or remember that invite you got that time, man. So like the New Year's party,
New Year's orgy,
like, the New Year's orgy where
my friends just really casually asked me to go, and I was just like,
and wasn't it all dominatrix and kind of like and then something taboo about pleasure playing SN what they call not S&M.
No, I think it was almost like S&M.
Yeah, S&M. Yeah,
BDSM. Is that what you were talking about?
BDSM. That's the one. See, I'm far removed from that.
Not the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra and Metallica.
Yeah. After party,
mate, that would be
some
sick.
of those cello
now
players.
You're talking. I'm there, mate. I'm there. Yeah, cool, mate. But seriously, imagine how good that would be.
Yeah,
that would definitely get me ready. Some Metallica and some cellos.
Yeah, viola.
Some viola.
With viola.
Some bit of brass in the background.
Bit of brass in the ass.
brass in the ass.
They call me the brass ass bull. But yeah, one of my friends, probably about like 8-9 years ago, like asked me if I wanted to go to like a New Year's like sex party, and it was like this like underground dungeon. I think I can't remember what city it was in. I think it might have been Leeds, either that or London. I know that's very far apart. But
one of the L's.
It was one of the L's.
It was a big L city.
And and I was like, sort of like, I'm
in an hour and about it.
Well, no, I'd already. I think I already said I was going like Nicky C's.
Nicky C's or sex parties.
I'll go Nicky C's.
Yeah.
Pretty much it. But yeah, like they were like telling me all about it afterwards and saying like they'd been to it before, and there was like this table in like the dungeon bit downstairs, and apparently it was all like red light. So you'd like go down to this dungeon, it was just like red light. So the room must have looked like had this crazy hue anyway. And they said there was this like table where like you'd be like tied down, and like you get like electric clamps on your nipples, and there was like be somebody like in like a gimp suit like spinning in the corner.
Yeah.
Like, and there was just like this freaking massive open orgy thing. But Yeah, to be honest, like I mean, I didn't even really consider it. To be honest, like you know, I'm a very sort of like liberal guy in that regard, and I think whatever you want to do, like
float your boat.
But like, yeah, it's I don't know. It's probably like that extreme is not for me, man.
It'd be interesting to be like a fly on the wall.
Yeah, I reckon I'd almost like laugh.
Yeah,
seeing this like guy in a gimp suit spinning and then just like nipple fucking.
I'm not into all that stuff.
I'm
quite meat and potatoes, really.
Yeah, I'm not into gimp suits. I'm not. Nah,
but and even like BDSM or power plays or what's it called? Summit play, not cosplay. What's it called? Like role play. That's it.
Yeah. I was gonna say like furries. Dress up as a dog and.
But you know what I mean? Like all that stuff.
You can be a terrier and I'll be a dachshund.
Oh god. But yeah, like not. I've not really been it. But like here's people talking about the pain, pleasure, pain kind of.
You're not into the pain.
Nah, like and how it can almost become
enhance
pleasure and stuff and enhance and like. I'm like and like that guy who died from like. Being hung at the same time as and how all that stuff. Yeah, so I'm just I can see how it must
bathing in a river of deathly ejaculate.
Sounds like a good Friday.
Is it called autoerotic asphyxiation?
I don't know, mate. You seem to know.
Yeah, that's when you. That is when you like essentially strangle yourself while trying to reach climax, and apparently it makes your climax better. But
I remember hearing about someone who died because they put like an orange in their mouth.
Mate, that's not.
I mean, I have eaten a strawberry. At the same time before.
Really?
And a grape, and that was really
That is
nice.
almost like so oddly specific.
Nice.
What? And it was
that's
like
nice.
It just like enhanced the taste.
Not at the same time as the.
Right, quick, get the strawberry.
No. Just during, just like, almost like the senses are aroused. And it's almost like your senses are heightened, so it tastes nicer.
Just imagine you like staring into your lover's eyes, like
this might have just been a dream or a fantasy.
With a little strawberry. Oh, and now I'll try a grape.
Yeah, you want to try it, man. You want to get those grapes?
Yeah,
out.
I've never included like food or anything like that.
No,
it's good.
I just think it would get a bit messy,
Nah, strawberries.
No? Actually, let's face it.
Grapes.
How messy can you get with a grape or a strawberry?
What's the word? Strawberries are a aphrodisiac.
Yeah,
like
man.
Oysters and asparagus.
I wouldn't want to get no oysters.
No, it'd be a bit stinky, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be a bit stinky. Yeah, you don't want a stinky oyster in the bedroom. No. But apparently they are a massive aphrodisiac, aren't they, oysters? I think they might be the best one.
I don't think I've ever tried them.
No, I've had one. I had eat oysters once. I don't think you're meant to chew them, are you? And I think I chewed them.
Really?
Back.
I think it's like a shot. I think.
I think that's like a waste to not chew.
Well, that's what I thought. We were in like a real fancy. Yeah. We're in a real fancy restaurant. They brought them out with like ice all around them.
Yeah.
And I remember I just had it and started chewing it. And it just tasted not very nice. I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't a horrible or anything like that. But it wasn't great.
The salty seas.
Yeah.
The salty seas of hedonism.
No. It didn't feel like an aphrodisiac.
The salty seas of seduction. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of uncharted waters in my life.
Yeah, well, I think in all of our lives. How much can you cram into your life? Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I'm not like adverse to pain. Like, I like a little bit of pain, but I guess it depends.
Your ass slapped.
Yeah, come on.
You want it red raw?
Yeah. Oh yeah, treat me like a naughty pony.
What about toys?
No, I'm not really into toys.
No.
More like a bit of biting, a bit of scratching.
Oh baby.
Clawing and biting. That I like the animalistic rawness of that, and like I don't mind that sort of thing.
Don't draw blood.
But once you start getting just don't draw blood, and we'll be all right. But yeah, I think like when you start getting like frickin' like leather ass whipping things out, then that's a bit. As I said, it would just make me laugh.
Been into it.
It would just make me laugh.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what's going on? I would just crack up. I'd be like, what's this, like a freaking Rammstein music video? Do you know what I mean?
I remember hearing at Burning Man Festival, like there's this like love tent and it's just all like cushions and like it's just an erotic tent where people will just go in and it's like that just the whole festival. So it's almost like a constant orgy the whole festival. Whoa. And you can just go in and out of it and it's just this never ending thing.
Haven't you been to Burning Man?
No, oh man, I'd love to go.
Is that the one that's in America?
That's in Las
Vegas.
Yeah. in the middle of the desert, and like
it's
this is like the wildest one.
It's quite exclusive, and it's
free.
Yeah, and like a lot of
not.
Well, yeah, you only. I think it's probably cost quite a lot of money to actually get there and do it.
Once you're in,
when you're in, it's all done on this system of exchange. So you've got to have something that you take with you. It could be a song.
And I will please
it could be a song, or it could be a hug, or it could be things that you bring to it.
It's old school trading.
Yeah, so it's it's an exchange system throughout the festival. But it's where a lot of like
value,
and it's like a massive art festival, and a lot of people like in a stupid amount of money, like artists and really high up people in that kind of world use it as a bit of like a creative freedom like splurge where they like will do all these stuff that they can't do in their normal life. Like these art concepts and stuff, and it seems mental there. But yeah, I heard about this love tent and I was like, that must be pretty mental.
Yeah, that's someone's exchange. They brought the tent with them. Yeah, the love tent.
Well, I think, let's face it, Las Vegas is a very hedonistic place anyway, isn't it? It's a place of gambling and freaking
Sin City.
Yeah, Sin City, and like those freaking one-stop shop like married places where you just they've got a drive-throughs where you can get married, don't they? And that. And like the amount of like strip clubs and just everything. It's a very hedonistic place, isn't it? It's almost like, let's face it, when you go to Las Vegas,
I remember David Cho
like
talking about chasing around women in his room with a lobster on his thing, an empty lobster thing, just running around this chasing them with it.
I remember hearing some crazy stories from David Cho on that. Yeah, and who else was the other one I heard? I think it was I think it might have still been David Cho. I was thinking of what's the other guy? I can't remember his name now. He's really good friends with like Theo Von and Joe Rogan and that, but I can't remember his name.
Ari.
No, not Ari Shafir, but he's a nutter apparently.
Yeah, he's mental.
He freaking drugged his mate Bill. Bert Kreisler. Is it Kreisler?
Yeah.
Like against his will while he was at home with like his missus and kids.
Yeah, I listened to that. That sounded
he said
mental,
he was like really, really upset
because he had the next day he was starting his comedy tour.
Yeah,
as well.
So he
had to get a plane while he was
he'd never done those drugs before in his life.
Yeah, it was
and he just like freaking the hell out and just didn't know what was going on, like where he like wasn't even told or anything, and I just spiked him.
Damn.
Yeah. That's I mean,
he doesn't regret it either, does he? He's like,
Ari?
Yeah, he's just like, yeah. I was like, man, that is like his wife will never talk to Ari again as well.
I can't remember. I was like, have like Bert and Ari made up?
I think they have, but his wife won't forgive him.
Yeah,
so he's never allowed round again.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think he should have at least like apologised and said like, I can see like.
I don't think spiking is good.
No, you should never ever spike somebody. But I mean, you've always got You've always got that crazy, like one crazy mate or something that just might do something like that you have to be like, no. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't you friggin' do anything like this, all right? Yeah, man. Crazy stuff.
I remember when we went to Las Vegas, it just felt like a different kind of place. Like I remember the whole floor was just littered with all these like sex workers and stuff. All their business cards were just like littered all over the floor. Like the whole floor. It wasn't, you couldn't see the pavement because that's what it was, just like everywhere.
Sounds mental. Like you can get anything in Las Vegas with money. Like if it's like anything goes as long as you got the money for it. And just like
crazy, isn't it?
Talking about the clubs and stuff. I remember this guy saying about like clubs that would turn over. His club that he worked in was one of the first clubs that turned over 1 million in one night. And it's like just like insane, crazy. The amount of like money that's flying around them.
I remember hearing that like because like the UFC headquarters are in Las Vegas, so it's also like the home of mixed martial arts essentially. But Dana White, the guy that's the president in the UFC, he's such a good gambler now that he's banned from all of the gambling casinos.
Whoa!
Apparently he's gotten like so good he can go in with like $5,000 and come out with like $500,000.
That's crazy.
So he's literally, they've banned him. They see him coming and they're just like, no, you can't play. He's almost just like figured it out.
Yeah,
it's like it's absolutely crazy, isn't it?
Damn.
To have that level. But should we get on some more interesting facts now?
Yeah.
Did you know that in Spanish-speaking countries, they do not have the sort of the myth, the superstition of Friday the 13th. They have the superstition of Tuesday the 13th, which is thought to bring bad luck. And this is because it was on a Tuesday in 1453 that Constantinople fell, ending the Byzantine Empire and starting the reign of the Ottomans in what would become known as Istanbul.
I want to learn more about the Ottomans because everything I hear about them seems like savage, like that. The whole way that they kind of just like built their empire and
the very fact that they just ended the Byzantine Empire and took Constantinople, which was like one of the very most impressive cities like in the world, and at certain points in history probably the most, and then just conquered it all, you know. But apparently it's weird because I remember hearing that like the Byzantines had become such almost like religious zealots. They were so extremely into Christianity, they'd almost like stopped you doing common sense things. Well, it's a bit like our modern day society, really, isn't it? But so they'd stopped arming like almost like all the gates and stuff like that, because they thought
The power of God will
that
save me.
if an enemy force came through the gates of Constantinople, because it was such a holy site with like the Hagia Sophia and all that, that God would just strike down their enemies.
Whoa.
So then when the Ottomans came through, they were almost like the Byzantines were just freaking out when the Ottomans just started slaughtering everyone, took over the city, ended the Byzantine Empire and turned it into like the Ottoman place. Yeah,
That's
crazy.
that is crazy, isn't it?
It's mental.
Yeah, really interesting. Really interesting. Let's talk about some crazy, dirty jobs. I mean, some jobs can really be a bummer. According to a study by Health Magazine, the fields where workers were most likely to be depressed are nursing home and childcare workers. 11% reported a major bout of depression. Also, food service staff, 10% of their workers apparently suffer from depression. Social workers, another 10% of their social workers suffer from depression, as do healthcare workers. And weirdly, 9% of artists, entertainers, and writers apparently say they suffer from depression. That's it's a bit weird, isn't it? Because with the first four, you can sort of see it makes sense. And then being an artist, an entertainer, or a writer is an extremely different profession from the four previously, isn't it?
I suppose rejection is quite a depressing
I was
factor,
thinking
isn't
more
it?
like
That's a good point.
creativity as well. Like when you're so creative and you're trying to outdo yourself on every project, and like your next. Do you know what I mean? Like that can, or if you're judging the latest thing you've done compared to all your previous work and stuff like that, must be so stressful.
Not just that, but it's often the most damaged people that create the most beautiful work.
Yeah.
So
Very true.
do you know what I mean? That's the stuff that really speaks to you and almost like cuts through, and you're like, man, that is deep. Do you know what I mean?
Pain
Like,
makes good art.
Yeah, it does. But I mean,
Yeah.
you see, I mean, just think in your head right now of just, I don't know, as many different top tier artists as you can, and then, I mean, how often, how regular, almost like common, unfortunately, in the music industry is it for artists to commit suicide, or
It is almost like a rite of passage, isn't it?
or even if they haven't, to have just had really quite heartbreaking lives.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and to actually be creative, like it can be a release for if you are struggling with something. It's like it's your release to get that out. So you put that pain into like words or into. And you know, it can be, you get your inspiration to actually write stuff like from that place a lot of the time. When things are good, you don't want to write. You're like, I just want to enjoy
agree.
feeling good.
for sure.
Yeah, no, I do agree. It's almost like you haven't got that muse.
No,
You haven't got that like spark or that kick.
it's like, get that out.
Because I think when you are also like feeling unfulfilled, or you've got some, so to speak, chip on your shoulder. I don't necessarily mean in like the traditional way, but you know what I mean. That's something. The release you get from, if you're like a musician, from like playing like a song, or I can imagine like an artist like drawing a painting, like that is
Cathartic.
It's almost like crack, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't you think? It feels very like euphoric while you're doing it. If you are sort of going through a stage in your life of maybe not feeling 100% fulfilled, or if you've got some sort of issue. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting, my friend. Whereas you said, you know, if you are just sort of like happy, you're just...
Yeah, you're just like, I'm enjoying being happy.
Yeah, you're just going through the paces, aren't you? Yeah. Let's talk about drugs at work. Food service workers are the most likely to use drugs or alcohol on the job, according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. The organisation surveyed employees and found the highest prevalence of on-the-job drug use in, food services ranked the highest, 16.9% of people that work in food service industry use drugs or alcohol on the job.
Yeah, man, that was really interesting. I remember Meg telling me about that as well, like because she worked a lot in hospitality when she was really young, from like an early age, saying like some of these top chefs and that would be like doing loads of coke and stuff, just while they were cooking all these massive complex meals.
That's mad, isn't it?
And like and just like full on it. And just
I guess it is like a real stressful job, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the highest stress you can almost be put under. It's like needing to do everything perfect
at such a high
Yeah.
standard.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
like,
And so quick
to
as
so
well.
many people. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I would never imagine that. Just the chefs in there, just high as anything. Just like,
but it's like,
even,
obviously, that includes like waiters and waitresses.
Yeah, waitresses,
It's funny because like, I've never really noticed. I'm quite an unobservant person, but like, somebody like serving you and just like tweaking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never noticed it.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I always just seem like they seem like pretty chill.
Keep it together.
No, because when we're talking about it, I'm almost picturing like high quality, like almost Michelin star places that would be like the places that this is going on. But if it's what did you say, 16 or 15%?
16.9%.
Yeah,
so almost 17.
That would include like non-Michelin star places and just normal places as well. So
let's face it, I suppose there's a lot of young like lads and lasses that just get blazed on the way to wear a job at McDonald's.
Yeah, true.
That would instantly count, wouldn't it? Apparently, in a second is people that work in construction. 13.7% of construction workers or builders essentially admit to using either drinking or using drugs at work. I mean, I know some like scaffolders and that drink in the vans on the morning on the way to work. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's mental.
In third place is the arts, entertainment and recreation industry. 11.6% of artists, musicians, people that work in entertainment and recreation. I'm surprised
it's only 11%.
Yeah, I thought that would have been number one. I thought that would have been number one.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's almost like synonymous. It goes hand in hand. You think of people like Kurt Cobain or Axl Rose or whoever, and you think drugs, don't you? Or like alcohol, you know?
Yeah. Party.
Yeah, to be fair, actually, I don't know if Axl Rose has ever done drugs. I mean, I don't know. He, but you do still, you think
just that sort of like rock star.
Whether it's alcohol or drugs, you just think of it, don't you?
He was the bassist of, is it Duff
Keegan?
Duff
McKagan, yeah.
He didn't drink a glass of water for like something stupid like 15 to 20 years.
Just drank alcohol.
Yeah, literally. And his liver just failed.
Packed up, yeah.
No wonder.
Yeah.
That's crazy,
That's
isn't it?
mental.
That is crazy.
I was like, surely like one glass. And he's like, all he would drink was like Jack Daniels and stuff. Like,
you must be feeling like horrible all the time.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? You'd think so, yeah. Yeah. Did you know that smokers call in sick an average of 7.67 days more per year than non-smokers?
Because it's bad for your lungs and makes you feel more sick.
I'm not surprised. I mean, smoking is just really bad for you, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, smoking is like so bad. Smoking is like one of those things that's like so bad for you. I think you can like feel how bad it is for you while we're doing it.
Yeah.
You know I mean, not many things make you feel like that.
Do you know what I mean? Like suddenly and obviously.
Yeah.
I remember having a cigarette once on my break at Asda when I was like really young, and I went out and it was almost just habit of going out there and just having a cigarette just in the break. And I smoked about a quarter of it, and I just like had a bit of self-reflection, and my mouth was like thinged up like that, and I looked at it and I was like, why the hell am I even doing this? You know, and just like chucked it down and went back in. But it was almost like just out of boredom or just wanting to feel something different from being in that situation at work. Do you know what I mean?
Almost like that became part of your like daily.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is almost boredom, isn't it?
Yeah.
What can I do that's going to be better than standing around smoking? Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, well, we'll give it a go. Like, and I think it's this weird thing in humans, isn't it? Almost like to you want it's like, you know, the same reason why people love energy drinks and coffee and alcohol and drugs. It's like ingesting something that makes you feel good or like scratches an itch or something, you know. But like cigarettes is a weird one because I think it's almost like the grossest of all of them.
Yeah. I
mean, along with, you know, like injecting yourself with drugs and stuff, you know, like, but I think that's just gross as well, isn't it?
Smelling salts.
No, that's cool.
Did you see that?
Oh, wait, Theo was loving that.
Yeah, Theo.
They were like highest grade, like weightlifting salts.
What even are smelling salts?
Ammonia.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Mate, I'd be all in that.
It smells like wee.
Yeah.
Ammonia just smells like wee.
Obviously, where I'm like, the amount of like, you know, videos and stuff and the sick things I know about like strongman and powerlifting and that. Yeah, it's like nuts.
What's it supposed to do?
It just freaking psychs you the hell out for a big lift. Like, if you're going to do a hard set, you freaking get a sniff. And like, your mate slaps you on the back and like, come on. And you just freaking just go and you just lift it. You know, it's like snapping you into like full bestial mode. Like, this is like not a time for like, you know, chilling or just being your civilized self. This is a time to like kick in, and it just helps almost like flip that switch to like pure animalistic.
Full gorilla.
Yeah, just utilising every single bit of like strength potential in your body, you know.
All that from ammonia.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it's just a tool at the end of the day. Not is even there are even like some extremely high level like strongman and powerlifters that don't use it. Do you know what I mean? But it is a super common thing.
Oh wow.
And it definitely does help. Definitely does help. I have to say, I've never used it, but I would like to try it. You know, but yeah, like Theo was loving it. Theo's such a barbarian in that regard, isn't he? Like not in the way that he's like
Anthony was, and Joe was as well. He's good.
But I wear like Theo. The thing I loved about Theo was like Joe had almost like a healthy respect for it. Whereas Theo was just like, come on, man. Like, he was just like, get it. And Joe was like, can you smell how strong that is? Like in the frickin', he's like, the lid hasn't been taken off ever. And he's like, and that's it with the wrapper on. He was like, can you already smell that? Theo was like, yeah, dude. And then Theo was like, let's get down. And Joe was like telling him about how like strong it was. And Theo was just unwrapping it. Like didn't give a damn.
Got his snoz right up in it as well.
Like, oh my God. He was like, it's melting my eyeballs.
Yeah.
That was so funny, man. Love Theo. The idea of an 8-hour workday is a complete myth. Even people that work 8 hours a day only actually spend an average of 3 hours and 58 minutes doing work. The rest of the day is spent either watching television, reading up about leisure and sports that they're interested, even sleeping in some cases, doing personal care, you know, touching up yourself, whether it's your hair or your makeup or whatever. And buying things online or actually physically in shop.
I suppose because most people have access to computers and their phones and stuff now all the time.
Yeah, that's it. Or it's like, I remember my mate Jake, obviously, your mate Jake as well, our old mate Jake, saying he was working as a subcontractor in Hinckley. Well, and he said that it's like how much work he would have every day would just like vary wildly. He was working as a carpenter on site. And he said, and some days he would spend the whole day sleeping. He'd go into he'd go in and they'd be like, oh, you know, there's not so much to do today. So they would almost be like, they'd be assigned this cabin, and he would just go in, sit on a chair, put his feet up on the table, and he would literally just like nod off, and he'd just
That's
sleep.
mental. How you could just do that and like not get caught or whatever, or like get woken up or feel comfortable enough that you can just actually sleep at work.
Yeah. But I don't think it was even like they had anyone come in to like check.
No, that's mad.
It is crazy because he was getting paid loads as well when he was working as a subcontractor at Hinckley.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I remember Josh was doing some work. I can't remember if it was for Sedgmore or Highline, whichever one Josh was working for at the time, and he said that he saw Jake there.
I always thought it was real mental when I was working in the archives on Hinkley Point B, and then that little Chinese lady that came in, and she was a student from China who'd come over and was doing this exchange thing, and she would come in and chat to me and like just sit on the other desk, and then would just almost like come out to hide out there a little bit sometimes. And she would just literally just go to sleep, and I'll be like, you can't do that here, like, you know, like I'm like, if someone comes in, I'll get in trouble for you sleeping here. And it was all a bit weird, and she's like, if I did not sleep now, I would not be able to work later. It's just saying she'd rather get that 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever and actually be able to.
To be fair, I think that's fair point. But I guess I know what you mean. I think it's almost like something.
It's almost culturally, it's not so much a normal thing like here.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but it's almost like that would be really frowned upon in the UK. And if you were like caught sleeping at work, then that's like pretty bad. You know, like it's quite frowned upon, isn't it? But I think, you know, it's common sense. I think, you know, if you're really like
using it as a power nap to get you more like
and I think as well, like say like if for like some reason out of your control the night before you had like an awful night's sleep because of some like family related emergency or something like that, I think it's like good that your co-workers are showing compassion to you to like let you sleep, because they know not only should you put yourself in that person's shoes, but you know, if they were awake all night, say helping a family member, they were being a good person. You shouldn't then punish them for that. Like if they're struggling and they can't keep their eyes open, they're not helping you or anyone. So just let them have a nap. Yeah, you know, like
get that 20 minutes in, man.
Yeah, or like even longer. You know, like 45 minutes. You know, maybe 45. Push the boat out. Loud music on through your headphones or at concerts can cause hearing loss. But playing music at a normal volume can actually improve your hearing as you age. Studies have shown that musicians are 40% better at hearing sentences over noisy backgrounds environments than non-musicians. Isn't that fascinating?
That's crazy.
Training
it's almost like you
ears
become like an oral freaking expert. Do you know what I mean? That's oral AUR.
I think my ears are going to go deaf at some point.
Why?
Really?
My hearing's just not that great. Like I can kind of like if I'm in a loud place, I just can't distinguish what other people are saying.
Really?
So I just give up on like talking to people, and I go in places like that.
Yeah, well, this is sort of like one of the things it's saying here about what benefits of being a musician. It goes on to say, similar to memory exercises, musicians regularly focus on small tonal details of sounds that non-musicians will neglect, allowing them to better pick up on small words and conversations as well. Isn't that really interesting?
That makes sense.
Then it goes on to say, just as like a little sub thing, if you are a brass or a woodwind instrument player, consider sterilizing your instrument before putting it in your mouth. Researchers found that 295 different types of bacteria, as well as different types of yeasts and molds, on a sampling of 13 instruments from a high school band room.
Whoa.
They warned that it could lead to
Smelly kids.
bad infections of the mouth, or even
Ulcers.
gastrointestinal and respiratory tract infections. Isn't that awful?
Yeah, I mean,
Not
it's like
good,
that
man.
petrol pump one, what you said about like one of the dirtiest places that there are, the highest bacteria is actually just petrol pumps.
I can't remember how much worse it was than like a toilet seat. But
it was worse.
crazy. Or it might have been a toilet bowl.
Yeah.
which
I
is
guess
even
they've
worse.
just like
That's
never been
literally-
washed, have they? No one's ever going around
I
to
think
wash
that
a
it, like,
petrol pump.
It'd be good to think, like, really, that like the person working there should every now and again maybe just go up and like spray it. And
Never
just give
seen
it a
them
wipe
do
down.
it.
No, I've
Never
seen
seen
it.
it.
I've never seen them do it, but it'd be a good thing to do, wouldn't it? But I guess
100%.
think about how many hundreds, if not in some cases on a really busy one, maybe thousands of people a day are just touching that pump, and who knows what that person does for a living or where they've been putting their hands. You know, who knows?
Some of them definitely been scratching their ass.
They might have like some disease or something that they've been like scratching. Some
Scratching that
pus.
disease.
Pus, bum fluid.
Yeah, I think about that. Whenever I'm always like, I want to carry like a glove or something that I can use a petrol pump with.
It'd be like this
never done it
smanky
yet.
little glove in the bin.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even want to
or
go
a
near it.
pack of gloves, you know, like a pack of like medical gloves.
disposable
Like,
gloves.
I just get one of those and just put them in my car so I can do it every time I go to the petrol station.
Yeah. No, that'd be a good idea, man. That would be a good idea, wouldn't it? Did you know that dogs can smell cancer?
I have heard that.
Researchers believe that a body that has developed cancer puts out a unique scent that dogs' sensitive sense of smell can detect. In one study, 4 family dogs smelled test tubes containing breath samples of 220 subjects and correctly identified 71 of the 100 of them who had lung cancer.
Wow.
In another
Whoa.
study, dogs were able to identify the presence of early-stage polyps of colorectal cancer through 33 out of 36 breath tests and 37 out of 38 stool samples.
That's mad.
So
innit?
just the dog just smelled the poo and it can tell.
Did you hear
It's
the one
crazy.
with this?
All your breath.
Like the dog and a girl, and she would have these seizures where she'd like fall on the ground and be totally like incapacitated.
Yeah.
And the dog could sense when she was going to have a seizure. She didn't even know herself, but the dog would like sense it and like do the like sit in front of her and put his paw on her or whatever. And then like within 5 minutes she would be having like one of these seizures. So she basically would gauge that to know how to sit down and get a medicine before she was going to have the seizure.
Well,
And apparently that was due to some chemical like that it could sense it in the change in the like sweat and stuff that she was secreting, or just her scent.
That's
you
mad,
know,
isn't it?
that there would be these little like things,
Just changes.
Yeah.
chemical changes. The dog sensed the chemical changes, realised that meant she was going to have a seizure,
And
and
let
would
her know.
always just let her know, and it would always be about 5 minutes before.
Isn't it mad how there's all these like different chemical processes and things that happen before things transpire that we just think almost like
We're
aren't
oblivious
there.
of. Yeah.
But then certain other like animals and things can figure that out. That is actually fascinating.
do you
isn't
know
it?
how much stronger a dog's sense of smell is?
Isn't it
I
like
know it's like
100
40,
times?
isn't it, or something like that?
I don't know. I was just curious.
I think
at
it
first.
depends on the breed, doesn't it?
Right.
Like for example, like a bloodhound will have a lot more than I don't know another type. But I remember hearing that a bear's is stronger. Has got a stronger sense of smell than any type of dog.
Really?
Bears have like, and that's
cool.
why it's so crucial. If you're like walking around in Montana or some state that has bears in America, obviously not to like barbecue your food, or if you are going to like put it out straight away and not leave any food out.
When we went to Yosemite, they made us put all our food in like a locked box far away from the tents because they'd just be able to smell it.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting with dogs as well. They never seem to be that interested in nice smells either, do they? Like
No,
my
yeah, I
dog, like,
think, yeah,
if it
if it
walked
was
past
so-
lavender, it would not be interested whatsoever.
If it smells fox
like
scat.
that,
Yeah.
and like bad smells, like it doesn't bother him so much.
Yeah.
Whereas it would really bother me.
Which you would
I'm
think,
like,
because
you
it's so
think,
much
yeah,
stronger, that would be
it
like
would be
horrible.
1,000 to 10,000 times more stronger than a human.
Jesus.
Can you quickly look up what a bear's is? Like I've just put a brown bear because obviously there's loads of different species. Of
Man,
bears.
imagine smelling like a poo but it's like 10,000 times stronger.
I think it must be really complicated. Maybe it like almost smells in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that if it was that strong but as bad as it is to us that they would just be getting up in that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like they like rub in fox scat and everything, don't
man.
they? You know, it's mad.
So it's better than a bloodhound's, but it's 2,100 times better than ours. So
Wow.
some dogs could still have...
Oh, so it's
Right.
some dogs still have better scent and smell than a
yeah,
bear?
because from 1 to 10,000, but a bear's is 2,100.
But it still says it's better than
From a
bloodhounds.
Yeah. So a bear. So
You would have thought bloodhounds would have been like one of the best.
Yeah.
They literally, their job is to like smell stuff and chase it. You know?
Do sharks smell blood, or is that just like a?
I think it's like a
sense it.
I don't know if it's a sense or a smell. I think it's probably more a sense than a smell.
Yeah,
I
that
think.
makes it. They don't really. I can imagine them having like nostrils.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they might have nostrils. I'm pretty sure they do have nostrils, actually. I'm not sure. I have to look up a picture of a shark.
Interesting.
But yeah, interesting. Did you know that the oldest garden gnome in the world is named Lampy? The last
Lampy.
surviving lawn ornament from a set of 21 imported into England from Germany in the 1840s. And there's also a little group called the Garden Gnome Liberation Front, who have made it their mission to steal gnomes from gardens in France. They often will leave behind a note written from the gnome's perspective, with the gnome explaining that he left because he felt disrespected. In 1997 alone, the group swiped more than 150 gnomes. More whimsical liberators will then take photos of the gnome that they stole in exotic locations around the world and then
I've
send
seen
those
this.
pictures
Like,
to the
postcards.
homeowner
Yeah.
before finally returning him one
That's
night.
hilarious.
Oh, so they
Imagine
will
you went
return
outside
them?
and it was gone.
Yeah, they were
That's
returning in the end.
When you went outside, your gnome was gone with like a little letter, and then you just keep getting like envelopes with
They
them
said,
like
like,
traveling
The
the world.
Great Pyramids, China.
I did see that, yeah.
That's so
frickin'
good.
Some like
That's
you know,
hilarious.
like frickin' some like Great Lake in America.
Been on an adventure.
Yeah.
Do you remember
man.
that like
Kuwait.
teddy bear fact you said once as well about
What was that?
about the guy who there was this little girl looking for her teddy, and one of you guys said about this fact because it was on the pod.
It just ring a bell. But I just can't remember the specifics, really.
he saw this little girl looking for her teddy. So he was trying to help her find it for quite a lot, and they stayed friends or something. And then one day he returned another teddy to her, but writ her this note. Oh no. And she found the note inside the teddy, like when she was older or whatever, and it explained how it had been on an adventure around the world, and that when you go away on adventures, you change, but you change into something. Do you remember that? Literally, that blew my mind when I heard about that, and I completely butchered it. But it was like this really nice sentiment story of like,
Mate, my short-term memory is so bad.
Yeah, I
What, and the parents?
remember the
I
story touched me.
It's
Anyway.
like I could imagine saying that,
Yeah.
but I can't remember it. Isn't that
Yeah.
weird?
Yeah.
And the parents
We'll
just
find
like set it up.
No, the parents didn't set it up, but it was about kindness of another
No,
human.
the bear did it.
No, she never found her original bear.
Yeah.
But this man, out of the kindness of his heart, like tried to like make her feel better by like giving her this new one and this story about how the bear had been all around
That's
the
nice,
world.
isn't it?
So it reminded
That
me
is
with
nice.
the gnomes.
Yeah.
And it was like almost like just the kindness of a stranger. kind of
Yeah, that's
thing.
really nice, isn't it? But we'll leave it on that. I guess that's a beautiful note to leave the pod on, everyone. So, you know, if you are going to steal a gnome, at least do something really funny and take pictures of it around the world, and then send like letters and that to the
And
owner.
return
and
it.
then return it at the end. But yeah, have a great week, everyone. Thanks for tuning with us again for another pod. We love you, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Bye-bye.